Now that we have a quorum, we can start the meeting. So the first thing on the meeting agenda is approval of the June 11th and August the 26th minutes. June 11th, Gavin was taking the minutes and we do not.
We do not have them yet.
So
That's
I think we'll have to generate them from the Zoom
AI.
AI, which I can take a shot at. If I can make sense of it.
Do we have the August?
I have not seen the August and I didn't, I was hoping you did some, and who took minutes?
What did
Was-
Catherine? No, I don't think it was Catherine. I think it was Jerry. I think Jerry took the minutes. So we're not gonna
Yes,
approve.
Jerry,
minutes.
it was Jerry, it was Jerry.
Neither.
So clerk tonight is Brad.
Yeah. I'm gonna have the minutes out next week. I don't believe in waiting 3 months, type them up.
Right, absolutely, because I don't remember, as I don't remember.
Okay,
So upcoming meeting dates. So the fourth
so we're,
Monday,
yeah, the next one
Next
is,
month.
what? It is, okay, it'll
Well,
be
it says
October.
it should be October. Let's go to months, the fourth,
It's gonna be the 21st. No,
no,
it's gonna be
it's
the
gonna be the
28th.
I'm looking at the 24th of October. It's the fourth,
Monday.
oh, Monday, sorry. I'm
It's
looking
gonna
at
be the
Thursday, yes, the 21st.
28th.
28th, all right, yes, you're right. I
Um,
don't think I quite,
and, anybody have a problem with that, that they know of?
Do we want
Good,
to-
okay, good.
do we want to think about?
I mean, in general,
It's working,
Okay.
Mondays conflict with select board every other time, or once in a while at least. But, it's okay, Wendy doesn't have to be here each time.
So the
It's
fourth,
better to meet with her separately.
the fourth Monday in November is the 25th, which is 3 days before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Is that,
It's gonna be a conflict for a lot of people, I'm gonna guess.
it could be.
Maybe.
I
It's
don't
the
know,
same
maybe,
week.
it may be, but I'm just,
Okay, let's send out a doodle
Just
poll,
check.
to, check on the, November. I can, well, we can do that. That's easy to do. Good. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a problem, but if you're traveling or like just can't think of Thanksgiving, it's that coming that soon, you just, the brain goes into
yeah,
Thanksgiving, then you can't have it.
yeah, I think well, the next item is the chair update, and why don't you, do you have anything to talk about?
Well, I did go to the chair's breakfast, which was pretty good. Where's my notes here? I got connected to somebody at Concord Green who is working on network geothermal. Say something about that a little later. Well, we had a hearing on MCI that was interesting, but it's so early in that process. But it was interesting to hear about how the state runs that project. And they encourage people to sort of be thinking about, what they want to have happen there and get their ideas in early as a way, because ideas tend to take a life of their own. Let's see. Middle school's opening this year. The
What'd you just say?
the new middle school is gonna open, in the spring,
Next calendar year, yeah.
next calendar. Well, yeah. Nothing really, really relevant to us. I don't think. And I didn't have any other, any other meetings. This has been a tough month. Um,
Okay, well, I have. Two things, the next, well, it'd be the November Concord Can, we invited. I sent an email to Dan Gainsborough, asking him to come to speak. To Concord Can, or the Climate Action Network. And basically got a reply from John Boynton. Saying, that they won't have anything to share about in the way of development plans, of course they don't. And they'll be prepared to share the committee's goals, process and timeline with us, which was not really what I wanted to hear, but
I didn't catch that. I should be taking these notes better. Oh, there's Helen. You started talking about Dan Gainsborough and then you switched to John Boynton.
well,
So I missed-
we asked Dan Gainsborough, who was on the MCI committee,
Oh,
to come and talk to Concord Can in November of the which is the third Tuesday AM, 8 o'clock AM. And he forwarded it to the other committee members and got a reply from John Boynton. I can forward this one
Okay.
to you. But John said, we will be prepared to share the committee's goals, process and timeline with you. And we'll be very interested in whatever input your members may have. When we start down this long and important road.
okay.
Hopefully that's gonna work out.
Maybe it can be about and the field.
What day is that?
That, it's the third, I think it's the 17th or the 19th of November, it's the third Tuesday
Okay.
at 8 AM. At the First Parish Church.
Can
Yeah.
you send that out to us?
I can send it
Sure.
out to you, absolutely, yes,
Thanks.
yeah. But the thing I really wanted to mention was that I just got an email yesterday from Charlie over here about the after study of the Doug White Fields.
I got it.
Divided into some place directions. Maybe I.
Does everybody know what the Doug White Field is? Oh, you seen any games there?
It's the fields behind the high school, which are due for replacement. And the question is, what are they gonna be replaced with? And so Charlie outlined all the reasons for switching over to grass.
Right.
Well, I didn't exactly do that.
Well,
I said the things
What
that
would
they
you like
need
to
to
say?
explore.
Right.
okay, you pointed out a lot of disadvantages of artificial turf, for sure.
Right.
And that perhaps climate action committee could get involved, assist. On your words here, assist the select board and town manager to define the scope and key elements of the study and the resulting decision process. And personally, I think that would be a good idea, but I think we
Yeah.
need to have a vote.
What do we know about the timeline for when decisions have to be made? What is this, where does this fit into what the school?
Let's put it this way, decisions will be made,
Right,
and if you wanna be a part of it, you need to get going.
right,
If you don't wanna be a part of it, wait around and try to figure out when the decisions are gonna be made, and then it'll be too late.
right, but.
We know they need to be replaced.
Yeah.
We know that this is totally toxic. They wanna go with artificial turf. On the other hand, there are advantages that the playing people will put forward, right?
Yeah,
And it'll be a battle. So I think that that now is the time, if you want to be a player in this, to step up and have that engagement with the select board. And I don't think you should do it in a way that basically says you shouldn't do this and you should do that. I think we have to give them a chance to make their own mind up, to
Totally.
make their own decision.
Mhm.
But these are the elements that what I wrote down were the elements that would need to be addressed. You know, if you were to do a careful consideration of
Right.
both options.
Now, where did you read that, the town manager was, wanting to
in the
use
bridge.
ARPA money?
The bridge, she's quoted in the bridge.
Okay, the bridge.
Yeah.
And the date, I have that in here, Concord Bridge, September 13, 2024.
Okay, didn't see, it. Oh, yeah, there it is.
So anyway, it's a hard thing to kind of get
Yeah,
your hands around because you don't want to come across as a shill for, you know, one side or the other.
right,
They are the ones that will make their mind up, the select board.
right,
But, you know, you can't make your mind up unless you understand this stuff. So there isn't much to understand when it comes to when it comes to natural turf, isn't much to understand. Grass grows, it lasts 20 years, they gotta cut it.
yeah,
There's a life cycle cost associated with it. You know, it costs so much, you get so many plays out of it and so forth and so on.
right,
When it comes to artificial turf, there's just hell to pay about the issues. The issues are
right,
severe. And, you know, the other towns have been all over this, like Arlington
okay, that's very interesting.
has come up with some sort of a policy that after they went through all these, their own review, they came up with a policy that kind of says, we won't do any artificial turf unless carefully considered after evaluation of the other options.
Yeah.
Should they be available. Now Concord has options. Right?
Right,
Yeah,
We have a lot of space in Concord to play games.
yeah,
We've got a
and
wealth.
we attended a recreation department meeting. That's several months ago. Where there was a consultant who came in to evaluate what future needs of recreation. And one of the things that they said is, you have so many fields here, you have 13 fields, you're so lucky. But somehow,
Actually, they said you have more resources than any other town we've ever evaluated. No, seriously, you have more resources than any town we've ever looked at. And we were just
Okay.
blown away by
Okay.
the amount of resources that you have.
so
So,
action items on this are, we need to contact the town manager and support this study. This study means hiring a consultant, I assume. Or how do you spend $100,000?
I can,
You know,
I
that?
can tell
can you
you,
fill us in now?
well, I can tell you what I know, which isn't a whole lot. But I can tell you that yes, there is $100,000 of ARPA funds that have been identified for this feasibility study. I do know that the town manager and the finance director are scheduled to meet with the school superintendent and the schools next week to have an initial conversation about this effort and the study. So there aren't really many details yet because they haven't had a conversation yet. But hopefully following that meeting, there'll be some more details available about what the process will be moving forward. It sounds like there's will be some partnership on the study, although I don't think it's expected that the town will be the lead on it because it's on school property, and it's controlled by the school. But again, that hasn't been decided in terms of what or who is going to be involved in the study.
Yeah.
So I think that conversation will happen next week, and based on that, hopefully, there'll be more information available about what the process is.
But you're not
expected
party
be
to the
moving forward.
conversation?
No.
Okay,
and I think
Should we
I mean,
recommend
if,
that?
if there's any experts coming in, they need to have somebody who understands how organic, well-managed fields work. And how they've been effective in other places. They
Yeah.
can't just have
Right,
artificial turf people coming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know because that's all I know, but I'm imagining that they're. As part of the, part of the process, there'll be opportunity for input, I'm guessing, for. People to provide
Right.
input and ask questions.
Right.
So I'm assuming there'll be
okay,
transparency about it. But I just don't know what it is. I had reached out to the town manager and she just said that she and the finance director are gonna be meeting with the schools next week and.
Do you think the select board wants to give this money over to the schools? I find that to be kind of almost inexplicable. They would do that.
Isn't the primary motivation to ensure that we use the money by the deadline that we have to allocate it?
Well,
Well, that's part of it, yes.
yeah,
because
they
it
want to
has
use the money,
be-
but
has to be
you could
spent
also
by
throw it
something.
down the drain if you wanted to.
yeah,
I have a question about that. Is it your belief that it would be, that the $100,000 would be better spent on something else in town and that we assume without a study that grass is the way to go?
No, I think that if they think it's gonna be 100,000 to look at these options, I'm fine with that. I don't know what it should cost. But I think they should look at both options and they should have a fair hearing before the town with all the evidence and data. Not something that's ginned up
Right.
to promote somebody or some particular group's bias
Right.
about what should be done here. And I think the evidence is pretty clear that the battle lines get drawn quickly. You look at Martha's Vineyard, you look at Arlington, you look at all these places that have had these
right,
these discussions. These fields are, you're taking a major risk when you put in one of these fields. You better know what you're doing in terms of the risk you're putting, forth to kids and to the environment. And there are lots of unknowns, and I think the town ought to know what's going on. And if it costs 100,000, it costs 100,000, but the most important thing is for it to be unbiased with a well-designed RFP that is approved by the appropriate parties that basically covers the elements. And we got to get somebody in, to your point, who is not, got their thumb on the scale. You hire somebody who does artificial turf fields for a living. You're gonna have the answer before they walk in the door. So,
so we'd like to see the RFP.
well, you'd like to create the RFP, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you like to be a part of that? I mean, this stuff is the guts of an RFP. You
Right.
wouldn't just want to see the RFP. That means that somebody else created it and brought it to you. I think what we would like you to do is to get involved and
Okay.
assist the town manager in laying out the criteria and the elements of the study that would go into the RFP.
Yeah, I agree.
Does it ring a bell with you?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah,
$100,000, this is like a lot of money for a study like this.
Well, it could be a lot of money, but it depends what
What's the
they're.
total cost of the project?
Well, it depends what they're doing with this, what the study is for. I think that there's another problem with this study as I see it, based on just the one sentence I saw in the paper. And is the study to help determine which path to pursue? Or is the study to do the design and to do the plan?
It's very different.
And those are very different. And I think that what the study needs to do is and maybe you need two things, but the study needs to basically lay this out so that the town can make an informed decision. Not so that the town can review, the engineering plan for artificial turf
Yes,
fields.
agree.
It's the latter, we might as well just go home and you can fold up your thing here,
In answer to your question about the cost of the project, the Friends of, the Fields, I'm forgetting the exact title, they've been collecting money since that field went in from kids of their parents who play sports in those fields.
right,
So they have $1 million or so, I think. In, in the banks,
Yeah.
ready,
Are you sure they have 1 million?
I'm not sure, I
That
have
seems
not.
like a,
Well,
but they've got a
Big number.
substantial amount of money. To
And
pour
this is the
into.
field where the baseball diamond is and.
no, this is
No,
up by
it's-
this
the,
is up
of
behind,
the school.
What?
If you go above the high school.
there's already
with the
an
parking
already-
lot there, there's 2 fields.
where we had town meeting.
There's already an artificial turf there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's gotten to the end of its life.
Oh, that's.
So
what
now
we're
the
talking-
question, so they have to roll it up and dispose of it somewhere
In
Um,
Pennsylvania.
in,
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania. You
That's
guys
what-
can take it down to Pennsylvania on your next trip.
Come on.
Uh,
Then they incinerate it, they might incinerate it, now think about the health impacts of that.
Right, we'd like to, so,
It's being stored in warehouses and
Also, we-
agricultural fields.
So they've had about like 5 or 10
Pennsylvania.
years
That's
experience
what's
with
happening
that. playing.
right now.
They must have some data about the
What
impacts,
about
about playing on that artificial turf.
okay. So,
some data about plan? I don't know.
The impacts on the athletes.
I mean, whether they got cancer or not?
Well, no, but the heat,
and
drainage.
Well, the heat is,
Injuries
a
to
lot of this
yield.
stuff is understood, the heat
Yeah.
temperatures, it's understood from other towns that have studied it.
Yeah.
I don't think they've collected that kind of data here.
So
But,
artificial turf field is the best place to go to be a spectator of sports. It's great for parents watching games. It's extends the season a bit, although
Well,
a
yes
field
and
up
no.
in that location is gonna be fine. It's not gonna get all wet, but they have reasons for wanting to do it. To be as good as the next school,
To what?
to be as good as all those other schools that have them. I'm just thinking from the school's point of view. I've seen a lot of.
The
games.
primary reason to do it is to get more plays per year.
Yeah.
More,
Right,
Right.
and,
more scheduled activities.
right,
Right.
okay,
What are the negatives? What are the environmental negatives?
Of what?
Read the.
Artificial
read the-
turf.
These are all here. We've got
Is it health benefit, health to kids?
chemical
healthy
pollution,
kids potentially.
microplastic pollution,
Yeah.
crumb rubber backing pollution. I mean, this stuff is horrendous.
Yeah.
Crumb rubber backing pollution, even if the backing is made out of crumb rubber.
Well, it's the infill that's.
Yeah, I don't mean the backing, I mean, it's the infill, that the soft part of the thing is made out of crumb rubber, which is ground up tires. Crumb rubber has a chemical in it.
Yeah.
The chemical is used to prevent tires from getting brittle and cracking in the UV.
I'm gonna guess
You
that.
you get a drop of that on you, you're finished.
Yes,
So $100,000, I agree, that's a lot. This is probably a pre-designed study, that's my guess.
yes.
I mean,
think
how
you're right.
much money does it take to compare artificial turf to natural turf?
Well, yeah, I mean, the issue
So,
to unwind this,
I don't wanna spend all this,
well,
Yeah,
you need
I
to,
don't
you
expect
need to
much.
go, we can talk about this.
yeah,
Or talk about with Janet,
Yeah,
offline,
I
but-
came across.
but if you all say, this is a good idea to get involved in this, then.
I came across a webinar about it. Which I shared with Charlie. And I can send it to all of you so you can. I mean, they have measured. How much little bits of the grass filaments are found in rivers, in the sea. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. I don't want to talk about the details
Yeah,
now.
I trust everyone's judgment, I was just curious.
Right,
And the price does seem real high for just a comparison, I mean, that's
Yeah.
like a $30,000. But who knows, I mean, that's what we gotta look into, right?
yeah.
yeah,
But,
Well, I mean, she may have been just spitballing the number anyway,
Yeah.
so who knows?
Yeah.
But, so this stuff was extracted. I extracted all these points from that webinar.
okay,
But
Mhm.
these are not unknown to us. These are known to the community in Concord that has been concerned about these fields. There are a lot of people that are concerned about this stuff. They may not be in this room, except for Janet, but
exactly, I was involved in the
there,
the
oh, you are,
moratorium.
you are, okay.
Um,
Mhm.
Given that this is a live ball right now in the townhouse. If we're going to do anything to try to touch this issue, we had better probably do it now,
mhm.
rather than have an additional conversation on the side and need to come back in a month
right,
Well, if you wanted to,
You have to write
if
the
we want
letter.
to talk more about this, we can do that tomorrow, but you probably ought to call the townhouse tomorrow.
yeah,
what you
I'm
probably ought to
thinking
do.
that we should have. A vote of, a motion to say that we should be involved in this.
Yeah.
And to authorize, maybe, Brad and myself
Okay,
to go and talk with the town manager.
Yeah.
And express our
Get
viewpoints.
something in the minutes, I agree.
So if somebody wants to put that into into a motion. That'd be great.
I propose that, Janet will write a letter.
Thank you.
And,
Is that what she was looking
I
for?
will, give some editorial inputs just to make sure that we don't forget anything, but if, I, just given how busy I am, I'm not gonna write the letter, but if I can help you, and if you can get it to them, we can even do it as soon as tomorrow or next day if you want.
So this is to ask,
To, let the, town manager know we're aware of this and we would support money being spent, to an unbiased choice of alternatives to artificial turf field.
I would suggest that just as it is stated in this email, that our position would be better stated as seeing grass as the default and seeing the unnatural alternative as the alternative. And just as Charlie said,
Yeah. But that's taking a position, I wanna hear I think, yeah, I think the default, I think that's fair to say that goes along with the sustainability principles at the bottom of the letter. It would make sense for grass to be the default choice, but we want the choice to be made on the merits, both,
it-
financial and,
studying it in an
environmental and
unbiased fashion,
health, that's
but
right.
with grass as the
Yeah.
default.
And with the town put in a position to make this decision.
yeah, with the town.
And I think the other thing that you need to focus on is that the town ought to keep control over this. A big mistake. I don't know where you got that from, Eric, or who basically told you that somehow it was gonna be shucked off to the superintendent, but that is
Well, it's-
to me
yeah,
worrisome.
but yes, I agree.
Because
Well,
this is town, it's town land. And these are
There's-
town environmental issues. These are
Yeah.
town health issues. These
the
are
town
town,
health issues, let's,
you know,
And it is-
the rivers run through Concord and so forth and so on. This is not a school thing.
yeah,
And there's that land, the Doug Whitefield land was actually leased from the school to the town.
Okay.
Up until twenty
Town
thirty-two, I
the town
think.
maintains, is responsible for maintenance.
There's
Okay.
responsible maintenance, is that?
okay, good.
Or maybe the town has control, was given control of it. I don't know. It's a,
I don't know, I
Right.
don't know, but there was certainly something in the agreement that
Okay,
leased the town, but anyway. We can,
but for the sake of argument, you can assume that the town should retain control because that's the way it's set up. Now, if they want to go get their attorney, to take a look at that, that's something they could do.
yeah,
But it's a tangled mess. To try to
Right.
figure out who has responsibility for this is like, whoa.
yeah.
okay, so do we have a motion?
I made the,
You
I
made the
make the
motion.
motion.
Is
I'll
anybody
second
gonna
that.
second it?
Second,
All those in
Okay.
favor?
That would be all of us, so, so that was second, I think Brad seconded it first. You had the third.
go ahead, you were there.
I know this is somewhat conjecture, but once a study is affected and the path forward is made, if it is the school walking that path, is the only touch point for town meeting going to be approving the school budget? There's not gonna be a separate discussion,
I don't think we know.
you know?
I don't know, I think we need to move on because
Yeah.
Yeah.
this was supposed to be
Okay,
Ideally, you'd like to
Five
have a public
minutes.
hearing on this, not just
That's
the
right.
school going
We're
off and
supposed,
deciding.
we're
this,
half an
so.
hour behind schedule, so we better
Yeah.
move on, and Eric, it's your turn to make an update.
Sure, well, I know we're very behind, so, and I apologize for not getting an update out sooner. I emailed it just before the meeting, but I do have some hard copies here if anybody wants one.
I don't remember those.
I didn't see
You
that.
know, I'd be happy to follow up with anybody later and answer any questions. I guess one thing I would just point out is right at the top of it is a few areas where I think there could be some opportunities for the committee to help me, hopefully, maybe. So there's just three things there. One is the development of a decarbonization roadmap for the town, which is going to be a requirement for the Green Communities Climate Leaders Program.
Right,
I think we have most of the other criteria checked off in terms of requirements for
right,
that. But there is sort of some detailed instructions and expectations for what the decarbonization roadmap would look like. I think the first question is it something that we think we can do versus needing to get some external help? A number of other towns have gotten some external technical assistance to help develop the roadmap.
depends how, do you know if there's some examples? I mean, I know there are some examples.
Acton, I believe, has one, but that was
Yeah.
done by a
Yeah.
consultant, so it's very detailed.
Right,
But, you know, I need to take a closer look at exactly what the requirements are for the roadmap, but it does involve some analysis of looking at all the municipal buildings, their energy use, and kind of creating a plan, a building by building plan, if you will. I
is
mean,
this just municipal?
just municipal.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
um, I see,
So there's some quantitative work that goes along with it, and there's, you know, some effort. And so,
yeah,
you know, I know that there are those probably with stronger quantitative skills than mine in this room. But I'd be happy to talk to anybody about that if it's something that sounds like it's of interest
Right.
in working on. And there may, I think I heard there may be potentially some opportunities for some technical assistance, perhaps this fall. So I'm looking into that to see if I could find out if that's something we might
Okay.
be able to take advantage of. So that's one thing. Another thing, the next two are things that we've talked about, but and something, you know, we started doing in the meetings here, which is our climate action resilience plan is going to need to be
Right.
updated. We're coming up on the 5th year of that. And we've been sort of looking at a high level through our meetings at progress. But there's some very detailed blueprints in the back of that for each of the steps and sections. And, you know, I think it would be helpful just to have, you know, as many eyes as possible looking through that at that level.
so.
and
I almost think of both of these items as almost dovetailing, even though, and involving some community, maybe a community, community gathering, like, you know, just bringing the community together, make a presentation to remind them of the existing plan and propose changes to the plan,
Mhm.
just to get the buy-in.
Yeah, and you know, I'd be happy to have that conversation with people about, yeah, you know, what opportunities do we want to create for, you know, people for an awareness and input as
Yeah.
part of that process. So, but it does raise another question of similar to the first one is, you know, we used a consultant to develop the plan in the first place. It's a very nice plan in that it is detailed with the blueprints. I think it's much more detailed than other plans I've seen in other towns, which is a good thing. But in terms of updating it, you know, the question is, do we want to get some external support again, and look for some money to do that? You know, and I think, you know, the committee and others can play a role in shaping what the new plan would look like, but to actually physically create that plan and put the document together and graphics and all that kind of stuff, you know, whether we want some external support for that. So that's just part of that conversation too. And then finally, same thing is having a set of, or any number of set of eyes looking at the sustainability web pages that we have.
Right,
So I'm working on updating those. Might even have a little temporary administrative support to help with that, and technical support, which is great. But so there's two things that I'm interested in making some immediate changes to updating pages and moving some things around, but then longer term, I'd really like to get some critical eyes looking at how the content is structured across those pages. Right now, it's sort of very broad in terms of sustainability at home and sustainability here and sustainability there. And then once you start going into that next level, it very quickly, in my opinion, gets pretty murky about where you go and what you see and how you can get to information and how you navigate. So I'd like to take a critical look at that and see, you know, could we consider some different ways to sort of structure that? Right now, there's not much connection between the way the content on the website is laid out and the climate action plan. And I don't know if it makes sense to maybe try to more closely align those or not, or align those with any
Yeah.
new plan updates. But just having, you know, eyes on that as well, I think would be helpful. So if anybody has interest in that, that's
Right,
certainly
I'm
welcome.
meaning to help you with the updated emissions numbers and stuff on that. But
Yeah.
it's interesting that you have, so a climate action website has different audiences. It has people like us who want to look in at the numbers and say, understand how we're getting from here to there, but it also has homeowners who like trying to figure out, you know,
Mhm, yeah,
what's a heat pump?
Yeah.
Those are, you have a couple of quite diverse things, but yeah, whatever we do, should do it in conjunction with Jan.
yeah,
and
obviously
like
there's
that.
a lot of connections
Because,
with their content. And I've already mentioned that to her.
so
Jan?
Janice said,
Janicetti over at the light plant,
Okay.
she's the, energy programs
Yeah.
manager over there.
So,
So a lot of the content on the sustainability pages links and connects to pages that they
Yeah.
maintain for things like rebates and incentives and
That makes sense, yeah.
information.
Regarding two, right, the updating the climate action resilient plan. It seems to me our committee should be the lead on that.
right.
Yeah.
I think we can do that even without a consultant, probably. I don't see.
Shouldn't there be a public process though?
Can be a public process, and maybe a consultant helps us do the public process, I don't know, that's what King
Yeah.
Lundgren did. But I don't think we need consultant
No, I agree,
nearly at the level of creating the first plan.
but like, the first plan, did they talk to like Public Works, they talked to Natural Resource, they talked to all those people, so we
So we
would
should
talk
do
to
the
all
same.
those people. I think it'd be great, but
Yeah.
that'd be, so we could more or less put together a work plan to do with the number two, our committee.
Right, okay,
You
good.
know, is that what we wanna do? That's a lot of work, but I think it'd be, you know, has to be done.
Yeah, and it's,
We have to write it with, you put together a report, so probably need a consultant just to help, you know, write it and do the graphics and all that stuff, right?
You talk about the first one or the second one?
Number two,
the number two. That's a good question, I mean, I don't think there's gonna be a lot of money handed to us to get a consultant to do this. Necessarily, because there's not a money tree. But,
Well, one of the reasons I mentioned that about, you know, some consulting help is that the fiscal year 26 budget process is coming up. So if I wanted
okay,
to ask for funds related to doing anything about updating the climate action plan for you know, starting in July of next year, which is gonna be, I think, in the 5th year of the plan, which is when we need to be doing this, then I'd need to probably know that this fall or by the end of this year in terms of trying to put a request in for some
Okay.
funds that might
When,
help support
when
that
precisely is the deadline
for,
for
The budget?
making the request?
I don't know yet. We're still
it's
waiting for
probably
information about the
November or
planning.
something.
But it's happening this fall, so.
Okay, so to Paul's point. We have to have a better idea of what are the steps that need to take and just. Lay that out and make a case that, that this group of volunteers can't necessarily do it, we can use a certain amount of help.
But this is a plan that already exists, right?
The plan that
Updated,
exists, yeah,
It was designed as a 5-year plan and we're coming
Yeah.
up on the 5th year. so we need to update it. We need to revisit it, revise it. You know, we have new greenhouse gas targets. We just updated the greenhouse gas inventory, so those are all things I would think would help inform that.
Yeah,
So, anyway, so yeah, we don't need to get into the details now, but you know, if there's, you know, I'd certainly welcome, you know, any help from the committee in that effort and helping to define what that effort would look like.
Is number two your job? Are you in charge of that?
I'm imagining so,
Yeah.
in terms of,
Did you
yeah,
understand?
managing it, yeah.
Do you have any staff, like,
No.
so no, not even administrative staff?
Yes,
Minimal. I mean, I
yeah.
share some basic administrative staff with the rest of the town manager's
Would
office.
you like, would you like our committee to help you put this together?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, is I'd
Okay.
certainly welcome any help in
Yeah.
updating the plan in general. And I think the first conversation is, you know, what do we think that process would look like?
Yeah.
And then obviously, based on that, you know, the committee can decide what role they want to play in that. I mean, I'm imagining that, you know, you want to play a role in that, and I'm
Yeah.
picturing you play a role in that. So, but you know, obviously, that's up for you guys to decide.
Eric has access to a copy machine 30 minutes a day. Well supported.
We have new climate change projections, we have all sorts of stuff. you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exciting to, you know, be 5 years in and see where we are, and then, you know, look forward again.
Wasn't Jerry working on this?
No,
He was
Here's-
updating the commercial emissions, right?
he was, interested in working on the municipal emissions. I don't think he's worked on commercial.
Okay,
Commercial is something we haven't really,
yeah,
looked at that.
yeah.
So. Maybe we should sit down and try to sketch out
Yeah.
a plan and then come to our October meeting with,
Yeah.
some more of an outline of what we think, we could do.
We need a small, so like, a small group get together,
Right,
yeah, this outline,
right, bring it to the committee.
yeah,
And then the committee can propose, you know, propose recommending that Eric has some consultant help and that we a breakdown of what the committee can do and a consultant.
yeah.
Okay,
Does that work for what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what I was planning to do is, you know, see if I could get some, you know, high level or ballpark estimates of, you know, from consulting about, you know, what would it cost to have somebody work with us to update the plan, like if they were to, you know, largely drive the process versus maybe, you know, help out with certain parts of it or something like that. So, because I don't really have a great sense of what that is right now,
I mean, it
like how much
seems
that
like
would
number
cost.
one would really need some support also, right? Because this is a brand new document.
one is a
Yeah.
total, is
Yeah.
actually,
Eric, when you said there was money potentially available, you mean through the state, through the DOER?
Yeah.
Through the Green Communities program?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to confirm that and see.
Okay,
so one,
If that's the case.
means working closely with, the facilities director as well.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
interesting because there's some moving pieces with that. So we want to do this, you know, we need to do this decarbonization roadmap. But, you know, we're also concurrently working on doing trying to get the investment grade audits on the municipal buildings done, which obviously would inform the
Right.
decarbonization roadmap. So it's
Right.
a little bit of
it's all.
chicken and
dovetails,
egg.
like
So we just had to think
it's all
about the,
dovetails,
yeah, the timing, you know, but basically it's, you know, it would be, like I said, an exercise and probably going into the, you know, the MEI and looking at, a lot of the individual building details. And then, you know, you're just kind of mapping out what your plans would be for each building moving forward in terms of trying to, you know,
Mm.
make efforts on, you know, decarbonization and improving efficiency and things like that. And it's not anything binding. I think
Yeah.
they just want to see that you know, the towns have made the effort to think about this at a certain level and plan
Right.
for
Do
it.
they
And then-
have, is there any sort of a template on the website?
there's
So
some,
they
there's
gotta
supporting
make a table of
documents.
Contents or
Okay.
something?
Yeah, there's supporting documents that are there to help.
So that might
to help
help
do that,
inform whether
yeah.
we need to hire a consultant or
Yeah,
not.
so,
Right.
yeah. So I'd love to sit down maybe with somebody and take a look at that and
It
get.
sounds like an.
see that.
You worked on stuff like this
Are you
before?
volunteering Janet again?
I think you're in a much better position than me to do
I
this.
could help out with this. I mean, this is, yeah.
Well, I can
Day-to-day
share, I can share some of the
coverage,
information
yeah.
about that with the group, so you can
Yeah.
see what some of the resources are and take a look at it,
Yeah.
but with that, I don't wanna I know we're very behind now, so I don't wanna take up more time, so, yeah, feel free to follow up with me if you
Right.
see anything in the update that you have questions about or wanna know more about, but with that, I'll just
Right,
let you get on to the next.
but I think too, for,
Thank you.
definitely for two, we wanna do something before October meeting. Because it involves potentially asking for money.
Hmm.
For one as well. So is, Russ is the facilities
Mhm.
manager. Is he aware of this? Have you talked to him about the, what this climate?
I think I mentioned it, but we haven't sat down and talked about it in detail.
Now, you were gonna have a meeting with him and schools and stuff or something last month.
There's a meeting, next week on the building audits and potentially pursuing the audits, as maybe part of energy savings performance contract through an ESCO. So
Yeah,
we're just,
okay.
we're having an internal meeting next week with, finance and town leadership and a few others to just explore that idea and talk about it internally and see if it's something that we'd wanna pursue, and if so, then it would, require, putting out an RFP for
Right.
the audits, and then, maybe with,
But I think this is really germane to that.
yeah,
I think you should bring this to that meeting.
Yeah.
And say, this is, our goal is to have a decarbonization plan, so that kind of is. that
Yeah.
Sets the,
yeah, they're certainly connected, so.
Okay,
Okay.
so let's move on. That's all right.
Yeah.
And the next thing on the agenda is Charlie, to talk about the solar municipal buildings policy.
Okay, well, maybe this hit you all like a brick, I don't know, but we probably provide all the context. The climate action plan, as you know, includes a set of action items that have to do with getting to certain levels of solar and certain levels of storage.
Yeah.
The level for solar that was committed to in the plan was 20 megawatts of solar by 2030. So the committee that put together this plan for that single action item, we had a whole committee process just to deal with that one item in the plan.
yeah,
We spent maybe 1,000 hours on that, so think about it. So we're currently at 7.5 megawatts in town. We're gonna be at 8.7 megawatts when we add the CMS panels. We
Yeah.
add the CMS megawattage. And then if all opportunities in the core that we put together are constructed, we will end up with about 14 megawatts against the overall goal of 20 megawatts. So we have a 20 megawatt goal by 2030. And what this report and what our goals focused on were the part of the equation that would be built out by the CMLP,
yeah,
not by individual residences or by any other commercial or nonprofit entities. So maybe we can get to 14, maybe we won't. It'll take quite a bit of work to get from our 8.7 to the full 14, and there's a lot of stuff in here that needs to get done to progress the town along those lines. What this policy does is it carves out a small piece, carves out town buildings, and basically says that in the future, any new buildings built in Concord will have solar. And they will have solar from the get-go. The solar will be part of the, I guess I can go right to the document. The solar will be part of the single integrated bid for the design, so it'll be designed in upfront. The problem with putting solar on town buildings is people try to come in after, or think they can come in after the fact and get things going. Doesn't work that way. You have one shot, and that's when the building is built, and you have one shot to get the money, that's when the building is budgeted. You have one shot to get it designed in, and that's when the building is designed. And that's the way it has to be done if we're gonna make any progress with future town buildings. And going back to existing town buildings is kind of a bit of a fool's errand. Because it's very expensive to do. It's very kludgy, you've got issues with roof, roof strength.
Yeah.
You've got, all kinds of logistical issues. It's got to be done right up front. And in fact, with the CMS building, we got a little bit closer by doing it somewhat at the same time with the CMLP. But that was a real problem too. That was not, that has not been smooth and continues to be not smooth.
Is it because of lack of a policy or?
Well, no, because it's done in two pieces.
Okay,
It's done, they made a rule up front. No, we can't, this building committee can't be involved in the solar for the roof, blah, blah, blah. That has to be done separately.
okay,
So meanwhile, we've done an analysis of the financials, and we've determined that the role for the CMLP can only be, in a reasonable way, can only be to build out ground mounted solar. That leaves all the other solar, which is potentially built out on rooftops, available for some other set of processes to kind of take advantage of it and get it in the mix. So what we're basically saying here is let's not miss our chances. Now, we're gonna build a new, I'm sure we're gonna build a new public safety building, we're gonna build a new public works building, we're gonna build a new, I don't know, we're gonna build some new buildings. Plus, there's 6 public school buildings. No, there are 4 public school buildings
right,
that are gonna be replaced, in the intermediate future, I guess.
right,
One of them right now that might go down is Ripley. They might have to tear Ripley down. Because it's a disaster.
Yeah.
So. Assuming let's say they do that, they would have to put solar on the roof, which would be nice.
yeah,
And these solar systems would be behind the meter. And the town would take advantage of the revenue, and that's what enables us to make these consistent with the business policy that shows some profitability for the entity putting up the money. So that's kind of the story. I don't think
so
we missed anything in here.
so this policy is being recommended by the solar task.
Yes,
And CAC can support it, but does it have to be adopted at town meeting?
no, it doesn't have to go to town meeting. One other comment about this policy, is that, and I forgot to mention this, is that buildings are built, based on designs that are put forth by building committees. Building committees have charges. They're given a charge that says, do these 12 things. This is in your scope as a building committee, you do these things. And in the future, we want solar. This policy basically says solar will be in the charge of future building committees, not just the windows and the doors and the basement. We're
Okay.
gonna have solar too.
Okay,
I'm being a little bit facetious about the windows and the doors. But, yeah, I mean, this is consistent, I think, with good.
and the select board just
Policy.
needs to,
Well, the select board needs to adopt this as an APP.
Okay,
And that's in here. So it says to Town of Concord Board Policy, APP. 242, dated blah, blah, blah. So when people come back to this in 5 or 6, 7 years,
yeah,
and they're building a public safety building, they can't say, well, we're not so sure we want to include solar because it will put us over budget. I say, not so fast, you're required to do that.
Yeah.
Your own policy says you have to do that,
okay.
so, well, maybe they don't need to follow the policies, I don't know.
Okay,
But this was recommended by the solar task force. So that's,
right,
and you need to go. Well, I think you as a CAC need to decide whether this is, policy is written correctly and is sound and all that kind of good stuff. With it, and you know, work with Eric on that, and
yeah,
I'm not sure how you want to do this, Eric, but this needs to get up to the select board and it needs to get on the agenda.
right,
I guess, Eric, you take care of that, right?
Well, the committee can.
Or the
present to
committee can,
select board.
put it on the agenda, okay?
yeah,
So you get it on the agenda and you go in and defend it.
okay,
Where'd the 20 megawatt target come from?
There's quite a history to that. That came from the CMLP. It came from a guy named, Hugh Lauer. Actually, initially might have been 30 initially. But, it's still a lot. It's a pretty big number. That said, I mean, I think it's a doable number. Now, why do you ask?
I'm just curious, because it was an arbitrary target, or it actually should figure out what's feasible.
Well, he took some cuts at, you know, what it would take to do, you know,
Yeah.
offset a certain amount of consumption and load and this kind of stuff. So there was some physics involved in that.
Yeah, they look at like, where could we possibly locate the solar?
Well, that is a separate question that it now involves. Well, how it's distributed is a big question because there's two branches in Concord. Do you know this? Two branches to the system. There's, let's say it's branch 1, branch 2, and one of the branches has most of the solar on it. So one side of the system is overloaded. And we've got to start building out solar on the other side. Either that or we have to start adding storage
Yeah.
to the side that's too loaded. And we're doing that. That's the current plan is to add storage to the
yeah.
side that's
Speaking of,
heavily subscribed.
Interesting.
speaking of storage is not part of the APP. is
No,
it? Okay, so
nor should it be.
nor should it be. However, CMLP could tell us, you know, in principle, if there wasn't enough resilience on the network that you can't do something.
Well, they should have the capacity through the
Okay.
existing plan to
Okay.
add 10 megawatts, but yeah, they can.
When should we
say
get
anything
it?
they want to say.
So, you know, when's the right time for this to get on the agenda? Is it,
Before you forget,
before we forget? Right?
yeah.
This is an easy one, so we could get it on in.
Well, I think overall that this solar stuff, there's a lot in that plan.
Yeah.
If you want to see, you were wondering what it takes to do some of this stuff that's in the current plan. This is a plan that calls out what you need to do the plan, which is kind of what we need.
Yeah,
I mean, you can update the plan and say, well, we really only need 12 megawatts instead of, you know, blah, blah, blah. Or you could say, well, we want to figure out how to do this stuff. And this plan is, you know, provides direction on how to go about doing the things that need to be done to get to that bigger number, to get close to 20.
right.
Where's I going with this comment?
I mean, and some of the barriers aren't just technical either.
You're asking about they're asking about the storage. So there's a lot in here. There's a lot in this plan besides this policy.
Yeah,
In
okay.
terms of, you know, storage and, you know, the other things that need to get done.
So the select board has already received the plan.
Yeah.
And they're
Have
aware.
they studied it in detail? I don't know what they're aware of.
Has anybody made a presentation to them on it?
Yeah, we made
Okay,
the usual 10-minute.
okay,
Yeah. But no, this is the problem with a lot of this stuff is these reports get worked on and a lot of time gets spent on them, then they end up on the shelf gathering dust. This is, I think, an attempt to, you ask about what's the right time to do this.
right,
And I guess where I was going with that other set of comments was the next thing that you could work on would be helping get the next solar installation squared away, which we think should go over on a piece of agricultural land over behind the Ripley School. Behind
Oh,
the
okay.
Ripley School Building. Would you like to get involved in that?
I think so, yeah, I mean, yeah,
Think so?
yeah, I mean, I,
Okay.
Yeah.
These are huge jobs,
I know,
which is why you need to be careful with that plan. That plan is like the universe. Just to get the town to pursue its own agreements to do
right,
what it takes to get to 20 megawatts is huge, huge.
right, no, I mean, I've seen what comes up at town meeting.
Public hearings, you know, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's big funding, blah, blah, blah. So.
Yeah,
anyway.
so do you think that's the next one and not trying to push the school on the median?
Oh, no, the median has to be put up too.
Yeah, okay,
Median, and we were working on that. We have a letter that's about to go to the CPW people on the median strip. We didn't get a good reading from the
CPW,
DPW, CPW is it Concord Public Works.
CPW's
Concord Public Works wouldn't give us a full release on the basin. Need to get a release, so
the high
that
school
Lori.
has to give, Lori has to give you.
No, the Lori said, well, you know, we have problems with the permeability of the surface in our cap and, you know, blah, 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 we're not sure technically, and we went back to Alan and said, you know, Alan, you've got to help us with this. Because
Okay,
he provided a very ambiguous letter.
Yeah.
And Alan said, well, now you've got to get Lori to decide. Well, we said, well, Lori won't decide because you haven't helped. You haven't helped with the technical side of this.
okay,
So
okay,
you've got that letter right here?
glad you're still on it,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but we'll do these one at a time,
yeah,
right?
okay,
So you've got the basin, we've got the landfill is going on. We've got
is the rooftop is not still going on at the?
no, rooftop is not to be worried about. That's kind of,
That's dead. Or that's,
the rooftop, we can't, that's done. Well, it's,
I'm not talking about CMS, I'm talking about
Oh.
CCHS,
oh, no, we're not doing that.
okay,
We're not doing that.
okay, we ready to move on?
yes,
So, you're all set to work on this and get this signed, get this agreed to and all that. I guess that's good.
yeah, we have to figure out what, I mean, I guess I should just talk to Wendy directly and figure out,
Oh, you mean how to get on the agenda and
how
what
to
to
get on
do?
the agenda.
Yeah, we talked about, I was hoping Wendy would be here because she could
Yeah.
shed a lot of light on this kind of stuff. Yeah,
She's at the select board meeting right now.
No, she's, no.
Oh, she's out of town? Oh,
She's
okay.
in Europe, I think, or someplace.
What exactly have we committed to do on this?
Well, on this, we just want to, support the policy that was laid out and get the select board to approve.
I haven't actually read this. I'd like the forbearance to be able to read it before I agree to supporting something.
Yeah. Well, that's,
Can I read that?
it depends if you know how to read.
I've got a
did
great.
you sent it out, didn't you?
Did this go out to the committee?
I don't
I
remember
didn't
getting
I
it.
didn't get it.
Okay,
Oh, you all didn't get it. Oh.
that was a mistake.
And there's also this whole thing that you should be familiar with, findings and recommendations, final report, solar implementation task force. Have you ever seen this?
No,
Okay, I need to.
You're the
send-
guys that are responsible for the solar and for all this kind of stuff, right? So need to have this.
This came up a
Yes.
little bit in the last meeting, and I know there's a whole cost, extra cost associated with the parking lot structures, the panels and parking lots.
Yeah,
Has that, did you look at that at all?
This is the CMLP's
Canopy.
problem.
Canopies,
The
yes.
CMLP, you know, kind of went out of their way to max out the site with panels in every possible spot. It wasn't
Yeah,
what they wanted to do. And it turns out that they needed a variance. And then they changed the plan, so they didn't need the variance, but
Oh,
Learned
right,
that-
so I'm
learned that-
following, so the variance for,
because they had the panels set up in beyond the setback. They had them in the setback.
no, I'm talking about the next 12 megawatts, so what we have planned for the next 12.
I thought you were bringing up the CMS thing with the panels in the parking lot.
No,
Right, so-
the plan,
The plan with the
Yeah.
12.
yeah,
any
Oh,
other
oh,
arrays
oh,
not-
the CMS is, we're good with that. I mean, that's
Right.
going.
The cost unfortunately for, the mounting structures or whatever it is that, make it possible to do in the parking lot, makes it prohibitive.
that was my question,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so the task
Was
force,
that your question?
the task force limited their
Oh.
recommendations to ground mount. Just
Um,
because of the economics, because if you try to go rooftop or canopy, it just economically does not become feasible.
Is there IRA
CMLP.
funding or anything available for that?
Yeah, there's funding,
For, right,
but,
That was factored in.
but the
it was.
cost is pretty significant on the structural
Right.
piece, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so let's move on. So,
we're gonna,
Ellen, you are next.
Okay, so Ellen,
Again, we are,
I'll try to be short. I'm Ellen Quackenbush. I'm from the Transportation Advisory Committee. And what we want to do is to go beyond what you folks that have ever been a chair, go beyond the chair's breakfast in collaboration and trying to really collaborate with you guys in terms of the transportation plans that we make and in specific public transit. So what we do is roads and sidewalks, pedestrian mobility, bikes, parking, road design, you know, all the bumps out in the center of Concord. But the most important thing, I think, for this committee is mass transit. That we have back up. So our goal, I mean, I sent this around, I don't know if anybody
Yeah.
ever, okay, so I sent this around, and our goal is stated as safe and efficient by efficiently meet energy consumption per person mile. Movement of all people within and beyond Concord and their destinations. In other words, what are the jobs people try to get done when they get in their cars, they get in their bikes, or they walk with a backpack? And try to get them not to do this by a car, but do this by mass transit. This is not as easy as it might sound. Janet and I went to Plymouth, and there's all these great things that are electric transits. They're really oriented toward tourism. Stop on, you know, drop on, hop on, hop off. Boston has it.
There's a
Plymouth has it.
oriented towards what?
Hop on, hop off tourism.
tourism.
So they might be free transit, May through October, focused on the weekends, no charge.
Right.
Funded by business that want people to come to their, you know, business location and spend money. A little bit different in Concord because a lot of our locations are historic sites, not necessarily revenue producing. And we did do a hop on, hop off trolley as part of tourism a while ago and, you know, met the train and took people various places.
Did
We-
that work at all well?
You know, I don't know. I haven't talked to Beth Williams about it, but I got a sense that it wasn't necessarily well designed and people liked it, but it wasn't well marketed. And if you want to make something work, you have to market it. So think about this. Let's say you're in tourism and you tell people, you advertise in Boston to say, get on the MBTA, get on the commuter rail. And there'll be a bus that meets you. They'll take you anywhere you want in Concord to all the historic sites.
Yeah.
That would be pretty nice. And it can't cost money. That's one of the challenges of this. And by the way, the Transportation Advisory Committee is really about capital expenses, you know, roads and bump outs and multimodal transportation sites and bike racks and things like that. This is a service cost. And anybody who knows economics knows that operating costs is a whole lot harder to manage than capital cost. So there's a lot of things going on in that regard. But we really would like to make something work in Concord that has to do not just for tourists, but for people like me that want to take my recyclables and go to Crosby's and I can't put it in my bike and I can't put it in my backpack and I'd like not to be in my car. So long story short, we would like to work with you as we develop plans. And this is a very early on invitation to you guys. Why do we want you to involve? Because you're better at measuring the impact than we will be. I mean, I know I'm an economist. I can measure the economic impact, but I want you to help us measure the CO2, greenhouse gas impact. To really understand how we're getting to the, Envision 2030 goals.
Right, I mean, if we can, you have to target car trips reduced.
Yeah.
And then you can make an estimate of what impact that is. And how, so I guess for our, if we're thinking this is for the climate action plan, it has to sort of be significant compared to total car trips, which aren't
Totally,
in,
yeah.
aren't just internal, so.
Yeah,
I guess, so are you thinking,
point.
this is so, naively, I think the thing that gets you to hop on the jitney and get down to MBTA or to a bus that takes you to Waltham where you're working or something is more significant. Cause you might do it even every day. Than, picking you up at your house and getting you over to Crosby's and back.
or getting kids to school. Yeah, we're really looking, and again, I'm trying to introduce this and
Yeah.
you're gonna see me more, more, I'm
Good.
gonna, yeah, right, you're gonna,
I mean,
maybe
this has
like me or
come up-
not like me.
This has come up a lot in West Concord, getting from West Concord to
Oh,
Concord,
that's an understatement.
even for kids.
So it's a safety issue?
Yeah, getting
There-
across Route 2.
Yeah, so when we done a survey, we did a survey with, I think, it was done a lot of surveys, so I think Stantec, we hired them. And safety across the Route 2 barrier between,
Right.
as
Yeah.
Peter Alden called it, East Concord and West Concord,
Yeah.
is a big, big deal.
It's huge. Yeah.
So, there's been talk about, can we use the train tunnel for a bike path, lots of stuff, but it has to be a couple of things. One, there's a concept about jobs to be done. You've got to make it work for what people are trying to do. It has to be multimodal. So
Mhm.
bike, it's going to be parking for a car, train, and mass transit.
Mhm.
My dream, and you're gonna, we're gonna be talking, I hope we involve this, is MCI Concord. Wouldn't it be great if MCI Concord were the smart city, smart towns, that really was a multimodal facility that incorporated the trains, incorporated the new redesigned Route 2 and all the stuff. Route 2 is the road is gonna be redesigned, and we wrote a letter to the Mass DOT saying, we really don't want you just to expand the lanes on Route 2, which is what DOT wanted to do. If anybody read that, add 3 lanes on various intersections. Why? To improve safety. The other part of that is to increase traffic. If you build it, they will come. If you
Right.
increase the.
And we wrote
capacity-
a letter as well.
Yeah, that's
We
right. I
told them
forgot
to
that.
start over again.
Yeah, so what we want to do is to work with you in these various plans. So it's multimodal, it's regional, and there's all these pieces, but they're all very scattered.
Yeah.
It has to do with what people are trying to do, not this sense of like, what are the hotspots in terms of safety, but what are the jobs people are trying to do? We're trying to get the kids to school, we're trying to get to work, people are trying to get to their jobs, and be more thoughtful about the overall plan.
Teenagers
Maybe.
going to Starbucks,
Yeah,
that.
whatever, Janet.
Yeah, people getting to the train station. I mean, there's limited parking.
Yeah.
Particularly in the, by, the Concord Depot. So to have some sort of, van transport that will pick people and gather them up.
Yeah.
To meet the train. And then to pick people up and take them back home again. That's a,
So when, if you got a car, if you got a bicycle and you want to go to the West Concord train station, there should be convenient parking. Acton has some wonderful, actually closed lock facilities for your bike and your,
Yeah, I rented one
yeah,
for a while.
it's a lot more conducive to usage. And so the idea is to figure out things that people will use, but we need you to help us measure the impact.
Yeah,
Because we go back to the select board and we ask for $1 million for mass transit and they say, well, did you really make a difference? We can show financial sustainability, but we want you to help us make the case for environmental impact.
So just so I'm clear, this is all within Concord, correct?
Within Concord, but connecting to other, like, commuter rail connects into Boston. There's a regional shuttle
The
that
commuter
connects,
rail in Concord,
right?
yes.
So we're looking beyond just Concord, but we can't influence anything outside of our town. We can collaborate,
Right.
but we only can influence what we build in our own town. But
Yeah.
I don't think that we want to be just myopic and say those trips that are within our town limits.
Right, no,
Right,
no, that,
yeah.
Right.
what is, okay, yeah, so. Yeah, we certainly want to, collaborate. Now, you guys meet once a month?
Once
Is
every
your- are-
3 weeks about,
Once every 3 weeks?
yeah, we're busy beavers.
I know. Makes me tired thinking about it.
I'm retired, yeah.
How is the Transportation Advisory Committee just will continue to go? It's not just a task force that ends at some point. You
I
are,
think we have so much, I doubt that we're gonna solve problems, you know,
yeah. Okay,
in the short term. So, we need to, amongst the other things, survey what other communities are doing, Lexington, Arlington,
Right.
Plymouth. And know what their business models are. For fee, not for fee, how long, think about this is changing behavior.
right,
So
that's
how
the
long does
most
it
important
take
part
to
of it.
change somebody's behavior to, you'll think about the subway, the T. You don't think about the T as a schedule, right? You just know the red line will be at Park Station and you just go and wait. So is that the model or is the model a specific schedule? Look at the commuter rail. On the weekends, they nix all the traffic, all the schedule, which is awful. So if people want to come into Concord, the first rail from Boston, I think is something like 8 o'clock in the morning. That's nuts if you really.
My
want to-
son went in, this weekend and it was an hour and a half late.
Yeah, well, that's.
So we ended up
also-
driving them to Alewife.
Yeah, that's my default, I must admit, when I don't trust the commuter
Yeah,
rail.
no,
So-
I mean, that's the unfortunate part of it, yeah.
So when we wrote a note, or at least when I wrote a note to the Mass DOT, it's like what you really want to tell them is invest in the commuter rail. Don't invest in the hardscape, but there's, silos. And DOT and highway owns asphalt. They don't own the operation of the commuter rail. So it's not easy, as you guys know, when you do environmental stuff. So, we'll be looking at other towns, we'll be developing a plan of goals. And really, we'll be looking at regional transport options. So I'll be back with various plans and get your input about, does it make sense? But most importantly, how do you measure it?
Mm. So
That's the
this is
most
the-
important
this
thing
is
I'm
really
asking
like
of you.
The first shot across the bow for us is that this plan will be coming to us at some point. With
Yeah.
a little more definition around, what the routes will look like, what the schedule will look like. Because all that will have to go into the calculations for
Right,
GHG emissions.
and
Or are
it-
you asking us to look at routes? also?
no, we'll do that. And the initial one might not necessarily be a mass transit plan, although that's my personal passion. It might be bikes and multimodal, like a bike train
Mm.
or, some combination, but in everything that we do, we'd really like your help in getting the economics of, CO2 emission. So it's not, you can do the economics of sustainability, but we have a goal,
Yeah.
right, in our town, and I'd love to be able
Yeah.
to check off that box.
Right, our climate action plan, our emissions inventory.
Yeah.
Is, all cars registered in Concord. And how many miles they go and what's their average, gasoline consumption.
Yeah.
Basically, because the electric ones don't count at this point, so they're effectively zero emission. So, if we can, whatever we do, we have to target, lowering the average, mileage traveled.
So
When-
cars,
When you started, one of the first things that you said was a different standard of measure than that. It sounded to me like you were trying to determine what the average emissions impact of a vehicle mile traveled was. Is there are we gonna be speaking the same math if we're doing
No.
the measurement for you?
I would like you to do the math, because I can do the economics, I can't do the environmental, and we'd love the right metrics to be put in place before anything, you know,
Right,
is
so if you,
proposed, right? The metrics have to be there to show success.
if she asked us, the, West Concord connector.
Yeah.
That was, that just zipped you there and it was zero emissions and we expect, well, then I would say, how many people are gonna ride it?
Exactly.
And if they people on
and they
it,
would-
that's
and-
7 trips we've saved.
Right, so that would be, that's like a real bottoms up thing where you say, okay, yeah. So this particular thing, we think there's gonna be 1,000 people a week and it's gonna save 5 miles a trip, and then you can come up with a greenhouse gas savings. It's not gonna be accurate, but it's gonna be, you know,
Accurate
an
enough.
estimate.
We could give element the factor for greenhouse gas, that's. like-
Right, no, but I
like a
don't know
no-brainer.
I don't know what kind of cars those people drive.
But it's
the same
also-
Cars, it's just standard.
But I think
Right.
I'm going beyond that. I'm not saying hypothetically, I'm saying that you
Right.
should actually survey after the fact.
Right,
So you should actually measure after the fact. Let's say you've got a car. So you can you can use a bike instead, or you can walk.
right,
And then you can use, so you got a car, you can do bike, walk, mass transit. So we're trying to see
right,
what the combinations are that get people out of their cars because it's just as good. Now, a lot of that is kind of like, okay, habit changing, which is really hard. So that's what we're trying to do, is figure out how do you get people out of their cars,
right.
because that's not as easy as it sounds.
So measuring it after the fact. So in the bottom up thing where you said you're gonna have that ride, we can actually count the passengers and stuff like that. One of us, CAC people will be on every bus and we'll count the people and they can do a report. But ultimately measuring is a top-down thing and saying all the cars in Concord, we measured how many miles they went and it went down. And maybe this is gonna be in the noise so that we can't really, it might be very hard to
Yeah, it's hard,
measure.
you know, anybody who's lives, like I live in West Concord, Route 62. So Route 2 is such a mess that there are more and more people going through Route 62 than Route 2. So part of it is hard to know because of the originations of the cars
Yeah,
come from air and Acton and lots of different places. So
Yeah.
we have to be smart about it. And so like, I'm hoping that between my committee and you guys, that we can come up with something that makes sense. It's not perfect, but I'm trying to come back to the select board and say, you know, the money you gave me was worth it. And please give me another year of like free service, because it
Okay.
takes a long time for people to change habits. So my pitch is probably gonna be to the select board, okay, we tried for a year, we need 2 more years.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be easy, but that's my goal, is to get people used to mass transit, wanting mass transit, the way if you ever live in Cambridge or Arlington or even Lexington has a better mass transit system than we do.
I think you're gonna be satisfying some early demand first. I know a lot of people in West Concord who are just craving something like this.
Yeah, hope
Because
so.
particularly with kids.
right. Now, so do you feel like you collected enough data on what people are craving? Well, those people that Mike was talking about
No,
craving this and that, or we have to do continued,
Okay, to be honest, no, because the surveys were more about like, what are the safety? Where are the safety hotspots that cause you problem? I wanna know, what are people trying to do with their cars? What are you doing? Like, you know, where are you going? So, you know, it's a continuous process.
Yeah.
And we'll try to figure that out, and that's what the TAC is trying to do, at least that's why I'm on the TAC. And so we'll try to figure out, how can we get people out of their cars and into something else to do this stuff with their kids, or,
Yeah.
you know, going to Emerson Umbrella or whatever it is. And the challenge, you know, bikes are great, but in the winter, there's snow. So the mass transit, you know, the idea is to have it be 12-month weather
and we
independent.
have a mass transit system to the schools, but I don't know, it's hard to get
Okay,
them
getting
to
the
use it.
bus, my son called it the loser mobile. I don't know.
I
Oh,
know.
but it's
Yeah.
it's extremely expensive,
Yeah,
and half the kids get taken over there in the family's car.
or they have their own car.
Well, this is a
Yes.
problem.
They have a
That's a
Jeep.
problem.
We don't make use out of the one mass transit system we have.
Right, so I'm not
Right.
saying this is easy. I'm just asking for you guys to be like my partners in this
Yeah.
experiment. And I'm not saying I can work a miracle because people are people, but rather let's try to do it. So that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's my proposal,
Yeah,
my ask.
limit parking,
Good
so you have to, if you limit parking, then
Getting back to Charlie's.
you have to
point,
force
though,
people onto other modes of transport.
The school bus system is really underutilized,
Yeah,
It's a mass transit system.
and,
Yeah,
you know, it'd be great if more students, if we force students to use it.
Yeah,
And also, if I could hop on a school bus if I wanted to go
yeah,
downtown.
I mean, that, if
It's
adults
like
could
real
get on
low-hanging
school
fruit.
buses, that might be good, though, the school bus is kind of slow because they.
but they do sit most of the time. In other words, there's, you know, everything's on the table. It's more, you know, will I get in the school bus? Yeah, probably, but you know, you think you're. a
But you look at
private school.
those emissions right there, I mean, you look at the amount of cars going into CCHS in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, I
It
mean,
looks like the Holland Tunnel, the Fourth of July.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like a joke.
Well, so again, I'm not trying to say that, you know, I can change human behavior, but we are trying
Right.
to build some ideas for mass transit and would like your thoughts, just in terms of design, of course, but also the measurement of the environmental impact.
right,
I think it's a nice idea,
Thank you, my dear.
and,
yeah,
we'll see what, you know, what ideas we come up with,
Thank you.
so. I
You'll
think
see
we
me
really-
more.
It's 20 minutes to 9.
You
Right.
guys are really getting late.
We're thinking we end at 9, I want to. keep
Right.
it too long. I don't know whether there's anything on the agenda
Um,
that, we can shorten or even skip till next month.
I just wanted to mention a couple things related to the network geothermal subcommittee. We didn't manage to have a meeting because we had a quorum issue during the summer. So we wrote up a proposal for getting a consultant to help us with business planning. And haven't submitted it. The town manager didn't want us to submit it until we got some, you know, buy-in from CMLP. And I did talk to Jason Bulger, and he is, okay, CMLP now has a new director, which is a good thing, and
Is
Jason.
that Jason?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
There's Jason.
who's the interim director, he was selected. So I think that's a very good thing. He wants to talk about it. I think Eric has already talked about it with him and Laura. I think we should
Just
sit down
briefly,
with
yeah.
them, and try to figure out when we, you know, is this proposal the right thing? Do they want to help shape that? What the next steps are?
Yeah, I reached out to them, about setting up a meeting, so I'm gonna send out an invite.
Okay,
So let me know if there's anybody other than you on this end that you would want to potentially have involved in that meeting.
right,
But I can follow up by
Yeah.
email on that.
okay.
But they said they're ready to
Yeah.
meet, so we just need to get a date.
Separately, I had a conversation with a guy in Marblehead, guy named Jean-Jacques Yarmouth. He's heading in a similar effort there, because that's an MLP that also has, they have, they have a bit less gas than we do, I think. I mean, I might be thinking of another place, but, they're trying to do a very similar thing. We had a great conversation because we were saying the same thing. They're a little farther ahead of us, but we could connect with them. And just want to keep and there's also a couple of people in Concord Green that are working on an idea for a geothermal system for Concord Green, which is, to me, a really ideal small pilot project. It's a bunch of buildings
Yeah,
that would like to get off of gas. I don't know if the owners association in general wants to get off of gas, but it's kind of it would be an ideal little pilot project for us to get some practice with. We'd have to get some, we have to negotiate what this, is CMLP involved at all? How does National Grid participate? Do we have a third party, involved with that? But this guy the guy who's leading that group is traveling, but we're gonna, try to talk next week. Do we have a meeting scheduled for that? When were we meeting? I think it was like a second. I can't remember when we met last. I should send out a message, a poll to the interested subcommittee members, Mike, Jerry, Gavin, who is, maybe back, and, who else?
There's not a woman.
Oh, yes, Catherine, as well, and see when that could happen. And, so let me know if, can you ping Jason or let's talk about that.
I did, they just suggested that, I try to coordinate a date.
Okay,
So they're just waiting for some dates to be sent to see if it works with their schedule.
okay, because they're, easy.
So I just need to know who else besides you, if anyone, that you would wanna involve in that conversation.
Mike, would you want to be part of a conversation with, CMLP
On road.
on network review, though?
Well, I mean, we had talked about phasing
Right.
out of that, right?
I'm
So.
trying to keep you on the hook.
Well,
No, okay, so
I
if
mean,
you
no,
want to phasing out of that, then,
I mean,
not a big deal.
we talked about, doesn't have to be right away. I mean, it can be over 2, 3, 4 months, whatever
Right,
is necessary. So, yes, if it's something that's near term and you want to keep some continuity, absolutely.
sure. Okay,
Okay, ready to move on?
yeah. So let's, I'm gonna send an email out, tomorrow. Cause I do wanna see if Jerry and,
A lot of things to talk about soon. 10
okay,
minutes unless we go late.
well, we're not gonna go late.
I mean, you could,
Okay.
I could suggest that rather than try to get into, visiting the climate action plan tonight and looking at updates on the section, I mean, that's something that probably takes a little time, so I
Yeah.
just wanna
Do the
punt on that for the
Yeah,
next one and just
that's
touch on
what I was
any other
thinking,
updates or.
Uh,
So then other updates, when I can,
Yeah, tell us about
the
the,
like, EV showcase on September the 14th. There were 18 cars, owners brought 18 cars in. There were 135 visitors. E&E Energy New England representative told me that the visitors were very receptive and learning about EVs. Also, Janicetti was there, and some other people from CMLP and some heat pump coaches talking about talking about the grants that were available for, all across CMLP. So
okay,
I think that's my report.
And the sustainability table was there.
Yes, sorry.
did we have a table there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this
Eric
is
was there.
upcoming or this happened already?
This happened.
Last Saturday.
Did they explain the savings from the time of use billing? Did they explain that?
I don't
people?
think, I don't remember anybody talking about that.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they may, the CMLP who at the table may well, talked with people about that.
They haven't,
But
release the new time of use billing. But that's what they do this, is time of use, yeah, I think you can get time of use now, I think.
You're talking for EV charging or just in?
Yeah,
general?
EV charging.
Yeah, Yeah, no, they were talking about, they had signs up about, all the different incentives, including.
Huge.
It's including getting the, credit on your bill
Okay,
for,
yeah.
yeah, so that was one of the things that they were
Good.
talking about.
Now, where are they at with the smart meters in everybody's houses? Has that been rolled out entirely, do you know?
They're more than halfway with installing them, I think.
Because most people. But you don't have to, for existing time of use measurement, program, you had to have a special meter, right?
No,
Yeah.
for electric vehicles, you could,
Get the
you
$15 a month.
could in some way demonstrate that show
Yeah.
that your car was programmed or, charger was programmed to charge your car off peak. And if you send them a photograph of that,
Yeah, you took a
then
picture.
you can
yeah.
get
Right.
$10 credit a month.
Right, but that's not okay,
And that's, it is time of use, but it's,
They got, they getting rid of all the special purpose, single purpose meters. Just
Right.
have the 1 meter.
but they,
okay,
until all this, smart meters out, I don't think they can
okay,
do time. of
so we
use.
don't,
Right, so that's all I have to say. So, Brad, I don't know.
I-
No, I'm talking about, I'm talking to Brad Dye about, the Sustainable Home Now brochure, how's that going?
Sure, yeah, so I sent you a markup, and I think after our last meeting, I sent it on to you. I haven't touched it since because I haven't heard anything by way of feedback.
right,
So
Okay,
if you would like me to be updating it, like some of the markup I gave were some questions about like, where did this come from? Could we do this instead of that? So I think I'd be hopeful for something in the way of a response to that
Yeah.
markup.
sure.
But I would be
Mhm.
prepared to do it. At some point, if there are any edits to be made to this, and I think there need to be, because right now CSEC is the people that produce this. And
yeah,
Right,
so we at least need to put our name on it instead.
right,
At some point, you're gonna need to be in touch with this artist that owns this
right.
graphic set.
Right.
The woman, who is very good to work with, easy to do. Sorry, I haven't had a chance to, get to that yet.
Well, we've never actually talked about it yet, so there wasn't an
Yeah.
expectation
okay.
necessarily that we had set. But I think the obvious
Uh,
next step would just be if you can respond to the markup.
Okay, well, we'll get to that next month. I will
Yeah.
certainly go back. And I mean, I remember looking at them and telling you this looks great, but probably didn't give you anything very specific.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay, so the cool Concord website,
no,
You?
talk about it next month.
next month, fine. Municipal electrification in schools,
No,
who's,
I'll skip over that because I don't know that, I mean, Eric said they're gonna be meeting on that next week. Is there anything about the MVP program and the,
Yes,
resilience?
yeah, as far as MVP, they, announced, expressions of, is it expressions of intent? Is that what they're calling EOI? So they have a deadline, I think it's in
So this
November.
is DOER,
This is the MVP program.
it's part of it DOER, or is it
I don't think
not
so.
part of
So I
DOER?
think it's under EEA, which
Yeah.
maybe is
Okay.
DOER is under two, or I don't know, I think it's under EEA, but, yeah, they just recently, a week or two ago announced, I think a November deadline for, or expressions of interest, maybe that's what it was. Basically, just a very broad, potential proposal ideas, just so that, they can see what people are thinking. It's not required, it's encouraged but not required for a spring action grant.
Okay,
But Paul and I recently had some conversations about this and communicated about it, and Paul actually drafted a sort of a 2-page description
Okay, great.
So Paul and I had some conversations, and out of that conversation came the idea of, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things you could focus on for climate vulnerability. I mean, obviously things like flooding, drought, a lot of water related things. So, we kind of gravitated towards the concept of water security as a proposal theme or focus, you know, which encompasses any number of water related vulnerabilities like flooding and drought and, you know,
Wildfires, everything.
number of different stakeholders. Yeah. So, Paul had just sent me, like I said, sort of a 2-page sort of high level concept, of, you know, what some effort might look like, and we haven't even had a chance to discuss it yet.
Well, I said it last night. so-
Yeah, so I did read it today. But interestingly, I happened to meet with a few other sustainability directors today, actually, well, 2, from Wayland and from Sudbury. But you know, I've sort of bounced this idea of maybe a regional proposal around within a number of with a number of different colleagues of mine. And my Sudbury colleague mentioned that apparently ORS and MAPC have been inquiring around about people's interest in a regional
Good.
proposal or something like that, but although I haven't heard, that's all I know. So my intent was to, well, first I wanted to talk to you about what you had sent.
Yeah,
And then just see, you know, contact ORS and MAPC and just, you know, find out what it is that they're asking about and talking about and looking for ideas. So, and if we're comfortable, maybe saying, well, you know, this is something we've been talking about here, you know, and see if it has any interest or traction. But they may be, I think, you know, 2 organizations that sound like they're trying to pull something together that might be more regional.
that'd be great.
Do you
So,
happen to know if that's on a modeling effort and trying to understand our vulnerability or to
well, Paul,
proposing a
what,
project to build make something or do something?
are you talking about the regional?
Yeah,
I don't know anything about it yet. I just found out today that they were just,
okay,
that they had been, I think,
Cool.
sort of asking around like towns. I mean, they hadn't reached out to me, but I think they had been asking or putting the word out that they were, you know, maybe looking for ideas or suggestions. I don't know that they had anything specific in mind yet.
yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, Paul, I don't know if you wanted to quickly say anything about what you had, like just the concept that you had drafted. I mean, it was
Yeah,
a couple of steps. I mean, it seemed like it was like looking at models and existing data sets to,
so water security is like an umbrella term for
Yeah.
looking at, you know, all water related issues.
yeah,
And I was thinking that we would look at all, like it could be Concord or it could be some other, you know, another area or several areas.
Yeah.
Look at all water related issues. And look at sort of, you know, the natural aspects of how we use our water in the hydrologic cycle, you know, and how it's changing over time because of climate change. So look at change in floods and droughts, soil moisture, stream flow, you know, all that stuff. And then also look at the human demands for water and water products. And so that would be looking at, you know, water supply, environmental flows, you know, agricultural demands and so on. And then start looking at the balance between them and see where it's out of balance. And then figuring out management strategies once you've done that. And we do this under present and future climates. And I was thinking, I wanted to have a lot of discussion here with the various stakeholders, which would include, you know, members of the community, town officials, also
Yeah.
people that don't live in Concord but come to Concord. So commuters, tourists, people that come out here to recreate. You know,
Right.
it's all tied to water. And so I was really looking at, think about a holistic study about how we use
Okay.
water, who needs the water,
so
and
you're
what the balance is.
proposing to do a study.
And so I was proposing this, you know, on my head. This is
Yeah.
sort of a study we might do, which would be useful.
It would be,
And the idea would be once you develop some policies, on how to, better manage our water,
right,
as a whole complete system.
Which, I think might dovetail nicely with the fact that Public Works here has already done some initial efforts, with, well, actually with Courtney, formerly of the committee and in a consulting capacity, for an integrated water resource management plan for the town. So, looking at all our water resources comprehensively, which, would fit into sort of this framework of security where you're looking at a lot of different angles. at
And also
once.
we have the stormwater management district now.
Yeah.
So it really complement all those efforts.
Yeah, so I think
I'd
it'd
like
be,
to-
it'd be interesting to think about how, obviously there's potential for that here, and then if like regionally, like, how could that work with
Right.
some other towns? And just last thing I'll mention related to that is I've mentioned the MVP 2.0
yeah,
process that the town's gonna be required to go through. And I got confirmation that we will be required to apply to start that process a year from now, next fall.
okay, so we can apply in the spring.
We can, yes.
With this, well.
So if we
can,
want to
write
apply
up,
in the spring, we're eligible, like we can, we're not contingent on waiting for that. But that's something to think about in relation to any of this other effort is, how can that social resilience component, how could that potentially dovetail into anything we might propose prior to that? So,
Right.
But-
And the spring grant is $100K grant potentially for doing,
I'm not sure on the amount, I have to confirm that,
okay,
I
but
think it's more, this is this like regional study. I think it's more than 100K.
I think it would
well,
have
if
to
it was
be,
a
yeah.
regional, you'd be able to pull it, I think.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Bigger.
I hadn't heard any
But
number.
I'll try to figure out what other details I can get on
Okay.
that.
Can you share your 2-pager?
I'm not sure, I could, but it's, I think it's still academic, so I want to talk to Eric a little bit. about it.
Okay, so it won't go in the minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it makes sense,
Okay.
right, Eric? It's not said.
Yeah, no, well, I just think it'd be good to, just to chat about it
Yeah,
first.
right,
because we
Well,
haven't- yeah,
glad
haven't
to hear
had a
it.
chance to do
Thank
that,
you for
so.
doing it.
So,
So that's November deadline, meaning in October. Before our October meeting, you probably decide whether this is
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense to do regional.
We should try to get this letter of intent in, just to make us keep.
Yeah, I mean, it's not binding and like I said,
Yeah.
it's not even required, so, but yeah, it can't hurt to.
I
get
think it's
something
good
and
to,
get feedback on it,
It's good to do.
So send me a note, we'll get together.
Okay.
How does that fit in with the charge of the committee?
It's part of the climate action plan,
Oh, it is?
climate resilience. It's the climate action. and resilience plan.
Resiliency,
yeah.
I haven't
Right.
seen that part of it. Yeah.
You didn't read that far. It's in there,
I
but
read
it's,
version 1.
Well, they call
I mean,
it preparedness in the plan.
Oh,
It's
okay,
one of the
okay,
5
yeah.
key sections and it's preparedness, so, but yeah, largely
Glad
resilience.
that's in there.
you're saying about trying to achieve a balance with our needs and our uses, but isn't most of the worries is the emergency situation of, extreme precipitation wipes us out, or, fires, burn us down,
Well, yeah, managing the extremes is always it's always the big challenge.
yeah.
But I think like what's gonna happen with groundwater recharge. Like we're heavily dependent on groundwater in Concord, right?
Right,
So that's sort of a longer, that's not an emergency situation, that's sort of,
it can be easily an emergency.
can be, but no, but it's
Not usually.
it's sort of it's an all year round process we have to worry about. Flood is sort of an
Right,
acute event. But like water supply could be like a chronic problem. And low flows, okay?
right.
Which we're always gonna be facing.
so you don't worry too much about the catastrophic flooding that happened in Vermont recently?
Sure, we have to worry about that,
Sure.
we also have to worry about more day-to-day issues, I think,
Well, I guess one of the things you have to worry about, and we can talk all night,
yeah.
is just, the trajectory of, is the trajectory that droughts are gonna get worse and that,
More
we're
floods and
gonna be in
droughts.
some,
The trajectory is more floods and droughts.
yeah,
Both.
so we're more regularly hitting, kind of nasty, summer times.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. So,
let's. call
time,
it a-
public comments, so we've only got one member of the public.
What's MVP?
He left.
What's MVP?
MVP
Municipal
full-
vulnerability
full-
preparedness.
Thank you. I don't like acronyms. Oh my God. Thank you. That was my only.
Okay, all right.
Oh, I remember the public.
You,
Oh, you
you're,
were, I'm sorry, yes.
oh, you are, really?
You
Have
just,
more comments.
I mean, you just used to belong on this committee.
You are that- I thought you were on the
So would you like
committee.
to add anything, Charlie? Okay, all right, well, I think it's time to adjourn.